Olivier is
What's
here.
up, Olivier?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Loud and clear.
Yeah, sorry for being late. I'm still in the winter hour.
How's it going?
Good.
Did you tell anybody that you were going to be here, or did you just surprise? Start to swap, man?
No, I mentioned it on Telegram before.
I mean, his name is in the meeting in the room name right now, so we knew who's coming.
But I'm a bit late, so maybe everyone already left.
So what's going on? I understand that this leak happened, and
I think what we all want to know is who that one person you shared it was with.
yeah,
Yeah, that's the $1 million question, right? I can't tell you because that wouldn't be good, but it's my only conclusion that he shared it. I have no other conclusion. I did some tests, but I'm pretty sure I wasn't hacked. So,
did you get any password resets for any of your email addresses?
no, I'm good.
Damn, that sucks. So what's gonna go on with Classic? Is this actually gonna happen? Are you gonna try to push this or what?
Well, it was just a draft of a brainstorm I had over the weekend. I talked to some people, and one of the guys advised me that if you're so sure about that this is gonna be the best for the market, why not do the sort of amicable is that the right word? Amicable,
yeah.
thing, and make a proposal to fork off yourself. And I wrote it down, and that's of course all it was. It was a draft. It wasn't supposed to be shared with the public. It was just like a brainstorm I had. I also had an idea over the weekend that merge mining might actually be a very interesting option, which hasn't been discussed yet. But this is all very premature, and I think there's a lot of buying from the core supporters, but not that much from the rest of the people. So I don't know where it's gonna go.
And so was Bitcoin Classic like a 2 megabyte block size or 4? I can't remember.
Originally it was 2.
What is it now?
Now it follows the Bitcoin Unlimited consensus system.
Oh, I see. Okay, so it's effectively Bitcoin Unlimited.
Well, not effectively. There's some different settings. It only has the ES or EB.
So you're basically gonna try to split away from BU. That's the goal here.
No. I mean, I just wrote under Classic because I historically started it up, but Xander has been running the show mostly, so of course I can't really do this without him. And yeah, this is just a pretty much. Sorry.
How does he feel?
I think that everyone sort of agrees that this is not the right time to do this, so I don't think I have a lot of buy-in for this idea, honestly.
Damn it.
Hey, Olivier. Nice to hear of you.
Hi.
Yeah, I just I read this. I read that post today, and I read it on Reddit. When they put on Bitcoin, but fuck me, them fucking our Bitcoin. God, they're like fucking children. It's so stupid. But I really liked what I read there. It was like we'll implement replay, protection, la 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 la, and I just really liked everything I read on that.
Well, I honestly believe that. I think we should give the choice to the market, and this definitely does that. And I think it's a win-win for all the parties. The holders just get double the coins, and they can decide to keep both of them, take no risks, and the miners can mine both the chains. So I think this is a decent proposal. But yeah, it's you need to get the buy-in for that, right?
Yeah, I think it is so good for everybody. Because rather than just forcing something onto the market, like with force, kind of like in this like really bad way, that like, it's just seen, it's like, I tweeted, it's like a hostile takeover. So it's like getting rid of that and like making it like a voluntary choice is more like the voluntarist anarchist way. So I liked that. I
agree.
Yeah, I like that.
I like it too.
Yeah, I like the idea of saying, we're not going to attack the old chain because there was some talk of that. And that, again, just seems like really fucking wrong. Like, it's just going to make people, like, hate whatever's there now. Reprivatation is good. The merge mining, I also thought, this is a great idea as well because we can continue to use all the existing mining infrastructure. Miners can continue to be happy. So, and I thought the result from it is... and this is what I keep saying, I've been saying this for like fucking ages now, is that the success of the coin is ultimately the value of it and the market cap. And because if your coin's fucking worthless with a shit market cap, it's nothing. So it's like Bitcoin Classic, and I like the name Classic much more than Unlimited, by the way, because I think Unlimited sounds kind of like you're buying a hosting package. It's kind of like Bitcoin Classic is kind of like it touches something because it's like this is how Bitcoin, it has always been, where it's like anybody can transact for a reasonable cost on the blockchain. So I really like the name Bitcoin Classic, and yeah. So I just think this is just a really good way to go.
Well, I think the name Bitcoin itself and the ticker symbol in the end don't really matter. For example, if you guys are convinced that if you would fork off the network today with whole Bitcoin Core team, your name would become Bitcoin Core and the symbol would be BCC, for example, you're all pretty convinced you're gonna get the market cap to where it was before Eurocoin, right?
No chance. Absolutely no chance.
No, I'm very. I think if there's Bitcoin Classic and Bitcoin Core, I think that the combined market cap of both will probably be a lot more than what Bitcoin is now.
No.
And as I said, the value of the
No.
and as I said, the value of the coin is ultimately how much of a success in it. And to think that Bitcoin Classic will be working like you, Roger, Jihan. I mean, I'm just giving an example. You'd be determined to show how much of a fucking great success what you've done is, and so you'll be determined to make it as good as possible, as good as possible, and anybody who has bitcoins will also have a vested financial interest in also making sure that your coin is good and secure and safe as well, because they'll have their own investment in it.
Flipper,
but
work
also
out the way Ethereum Classic worked out. It's just not going to work that way.
Yeah, it's not going to work that way, and because Bitcoin's too big of a market cap, and like with like Roger, he owns Bitcoin.com, he has RBTC, so I think it's like a great thing, and I also think that Core are going to be determined to say that we're right, we are the good ones, we are the chosen ones, and so they're going to be desperate to make their version as good as possible, and I think that. The whole, I'm like pissed off that Ethereum has taken a third of Bitcoin's market cap, but to me, this is because Bitcoin had first mover advantage, and everything that's being done on Ethereum should, in my mind, should have always been done on the single most secure global, distributed ledger. It should have been done on Bitcoin, and I feel like people, they've been sat on their ass. Miners maybe haven't been so incentivized because they're sitting pretty with fees and price, and maybe Core's been slow because of getting things through. And I think this is just going to, really up the aggression and competitive free market coins. And I'm all for it. I think it's going to be great.
Flipper, it's not about.
Yeah, you're going to have a president or a CEO.
What?
You're going to have a president or CEO.
Who's echoing?
It's Olivier. But look, maybe, right? Maybe Core won't have that.
Let him, Flipper, let him answer the question.
Well, you asked me.
Are you serious about this president question?
Yeah, you know how they're talking about Bitcoin
Why?
Unlimited, how they're about to have a president or a CEO.
That's their area. I
No. I'm asking you, are you going to copy that, or you're not going to do that, obviously, right?
For Bitcoin Classic?
Yeah.
Well, assuming I'm speaking for Classic, which I'm not, my personal opinion is that there obviously shouldn't be a president, and I think Bitcoin needs a guideline and stability for people to hang on to, if you know what I mean. It needs to have a sort of a clear plan towards the future, what it's gonna be. It can be everything, I think, and I'm more of the opinion that the Bitcoin white paper itself and the clarifications of Satoshi, which he later made, are more than enough to define it, and I think we should follow that as our constitution.
So, do you think that this whole I'm not sure if you saw the whole Peter R thing about the inflation, how he thinks with the unlimited block size, we would have to have basically inflation throughout the history in order for this to work.
What sort of inflation does he want?
He wants the block reward to continue going, so he wants to increase to 21 million coins.
No, that's I'm absolutely against that.
All right. Would you be able to make that public so people understand that you're also against that? Because not many people understand what he's trying to do with Bitcoin Unlimited.
Oh wow,
Are you sure
Olivia,
he wants to increase the 21 million limit?
Yeah. It's yeah.
There's videos.
I'm surprised. I did not know you had this stance. Wow.
Really?
Awesome.
Very conservative in regards to Bitcoin. That's why I have an issue with. And I know I'm going into controversial territory here, but I have a big issue that Bitcoin Core or a lot of developers there want to turn it into a settlement network and want to have an artificial fee market and want to limit the block size, and they're pretty happy about what's going on today. I think that's insanity.
So, I mean, granted that all of these rules are arbitrary, including the 10-minute block time, including the 21 million coins, including the 1 megabyte block size limit. But you would agree that raising the 21 million coin is bad, right?
Of course. They should never be raised. That's like the number one property what makes Bitcoin unique.
Okay, so if the miners, because I know you're a big proponent of the miners basically making the decision. So if the miners said the reward is starting to swindle away, we need to add more coins.
No, that's okay. Look, I'm a big fan of having this miner voting system, but if the miners ever deviate from the essentials of Bitcoin, then obviously the user should revolt. And yeah, you can.
Well, do you think that's what's happening now? Do you think that's what's happening now?
But I don't think it's justified to revolt over a block size increase, because first of all, Bitcoin originally didn't have a block size limit, and you can discuss it was 32 megabyte whatever. But in the spirit of the white paper and Satoshi's intentions, there shouldn't be a limit, right? Like the fee market which we have now is artificial, and that was never the plan. And
yeah.
There's one thing to say, like, okay, let's have Lightning Network in the future, and I can say, okay, that's good, but you don't do it at the cost of destroying the on-chain scaling, right?
Okay, so I agree with you 100% that Bitcoin needs to scale, and no one's disagreeing with you with that. But what I'm saying is that right now, Bitcoin Unlimited is going to give the power to the miners, and the miners saying right now that we need, but they don't have the power, as you can see.
They do.
Because if they had the power, we already would have had Classic.
They can just recompile
a long time
Bitcoin
ago.
to have 4
but
megabytes if they want.
But why aren't they doing that? What's the reason for today for them not doing that? Why are we going through this whole drama of a hard fork? Why not just do it?
I think historically they've been afraid to make decisions.
So you think the reason we don't have Bitcoin Unlimited today is because you think Janssens is scared to make decisions?
No, it's why we ended up here is a consequence of several things that happened, right? We've been stalling this block size increase for 3 years, and I think the miners are really fed up after all these attempts to raise the block size, and now with the issues users face for the last year. I mean, I think it's a very bad design from to first get all the transactions stuck and hopefully come up with a solution 1 year later, right? And you can make a case that they intended to have it ready by April, but you know how software development goes. So
Olivier, the meme pool is empty right now. It's completely empty.
Yeah, okay, but I mean, in general, over the last year's transactions has been stuck all the time, right?
From spam.
Olivier, how do you know it's not an attack on the network?
Like a spam attack for the last year?
Yeah.
If there wouldn't be like a natural growth curve, you could make a case, but it's a clear natural growth curve. So.
Oh, okay. So what about the vast majority of empty blocks that are being produced? And every empty block does not lessen the TXs that build up in mempool. Yes, there is. Look, check it out. It is not a small minority. Look.
What's your percent?
I can't give you a percentage right now.
I mean, right now
the
meme pool is completely empty.
We can just look online and have the percent, right? I mean, you do it in the background.
Yeah, it's historically it's been around 20%.
Yeah, just asking the last month. I mean, historically, over the whole life of Bitcoin is completely different.
Well, I mean, recently it's been lower, but I mean, they're back to producing. Alex Sissaman from
but empty blocks haven't been a problem until the last year or so.
I mean, I would love for this fork to go on. I would love for the minority chain not to get attacked. So I'm all for what you're trying to accomplish. Bitcoin Unlimited, though, what they're trying to... I'm actually for Bitcoin Unlimited. If they want to fork off and, do their own thing, I'm for it. But once they start talking about attacking the minority chain, and now I'm hearing all this stuff about inflation, I mean, red flags are going up.
Well, the big problem here is that both parties, I'm taking a neutral stance now, both parties think the other party is attacking Bitcoin, right? Like Bitcoin, well, not Bitcoin Core, but the big blockers think that Bitcoin Core is turning Bitcoin into a settlement network. You read the article I wrote today, right? It's and on the opposite side, you guys think that Bitcoin Unlimited or Bitcoin Classic, they're taking over the network for themselves and trying to grab the power, and I don't know.
Olivier, but I sent you this. I already sent you this multiple times. Hal Finney in 2010 was talking about exactly what's happening today. This isn't anything
I didn't get that.
Hal Finney. Those who know that in Twitter, that post that I keep linking you to.
Yeah.
Like, this is nothing new. This isn't a surprise for anyone. Like, we knew this was going to happen.
What happened? What would happen?
This whole settlement network that you're talking about. The Bitcoin can't be decentralized peer-to-peer money to everyone on chain. You need second layer.
But it's a premature optimization to do this right now. We can perfectly have 4 8 megabyte blocks, and there wouldn't be a backlog whatsoever.
Without any consequences, what would that do? Do you think to the topography
I don't think there's
of the
many
network?
consequences. No, not.
Olivier, but
so how would that
I wouldn't
run?
be able.
Yeah, how would that run? Let's say in Botswana. So I'm working with Alakanani at the moment with the Satoshi Center in Botswana. How do you think a block size increase would affect her ability to run a full node in Botswana?
Or Tor, or Tor.
The 2 megabyte.
Not 2 megabytes. I'm talking about the flexible, the Bitcoin Unlimited proposal where you'd have flexible block sizes.
Well, it depends what megabyte it would be, right? I can assume that, yeah, maybe with 2 megabyte, people in Africa on a very bad connection wouldn't be able to run a Bitcoin node anymore. I don't think that's a concern.
You don't think that's a concern? 1 second.
No, I don't think so.
So she should run an SPV node. What if she wants to run a local business there and she wants to distribute blocks out?
I think SPV should have more. I word in the article again. I think it should have more protection of the rules in there, like what Core is trying to do now. I think that's a great idea. So even if you run an SPV node, you can still block certain things with it. That would be great. I don't think everyone needs to have a full node with a 5 terabyte hard drive in the future sitting in his house. I think that's absurd.
But do you think that
Satoshi also said that wasn't supposed to be the case?
But part of the reason
I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters anymore what Satoshi intended or said or what have you.
It matters a lot to me because it's what we started with.
Yeah, and Olivier, I'm.
Oh, is it you, Phil?
Hey.
Hey, are you on vacation?
I am on vacation, but but the wife and kids are out of the hotel room for a little bit, so I figured I'd check in, and I heard you speaking in here.
He's got 5 minutes. Quick.
No, look, I think that what's really going on here is that there's different people are aspiring to different visions of Bitcoin, and that's all that's happening here. And people want to do it differently, and I think that's fine. I think the problem is that when we go through like a contentious hard fork scenario where basically everybody loses, that is kind of untenable. But I think that having a scenario
going to be very bad for Bitcoin and for the price. Yeah.
It's bad for whatever chain that wins too, right? But I think that a scenario that Olivier is pointing out, where there's a way to basically fork Bitcoin, merge mine it, work with the existing community in such a way that we could do this. We could do this in a way that where we can let the economic majority speak at the end of the day. If it's successful and this is the Bitcoin that people prefer, then this will be the one that ends up having value, and this will be the one that people end up using. But doing it in a way that doesn't disrupt the existing economy, doesn't disrupt existing wealth, doesn't disrupt exchange operations or major exchanges that are doing margin, for example, that's a big deal. It matters. It matters a lot.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not the only one making this decision. I just have a voice, and I think this should be discussed. But
well, you do,
but different.
But you also, Olivier, you have an important voice. I mean, that's and I think the fact that you're being brave enough to put forward an alternative approach, I think, is laudable, frankly. So.
Right, so back to my original question about Alakanani. So if she wants to run a business, because one of the reasons why you run a full node is so you can provide services to other people as well. So if they want to run SPVs, they can use you as a service. But as we know, bandwidth is not equal. It's not subject to the same kind of laws like Moore's law or Kreider's law.
Yeah, I understand your point you're trying to make, but if you want to run Amazon from Africa and you have shitty bandwidth, sorry, but you can't do it, right? If you want to run a business and you want to host the business on your server at your location, that's pretty old school in general, right? You would just use a data center.
Yeah, have you seen what the prices are like at the data centers in her area?
I have no idea, but then I would recommend to get a data center in the UK. Probably also better for your customers if you go international, right? I can't really help the African situation.
It's a different vision for Bitcoin. Right?
Pick India. So should everyone have access, or just Western Europeans and North Americans, or are we talking about everybody having access to the network?
What about island people?
No, I think you will have access to Bitcoin. I'm just saying, if you really insist on running a Bitcoin exchange and you need full nodes, then you need to invest in infrastructure.
What about the validation? Right? Should my node be able to validate the transactions? Because that's another thing that the full node does, is it validates every transaction. I'm not outsourcing
that. That's the core of this. That's
still
the core
the
of
same
this,
thing, right?
So Olivia, you said there were 300. You said the transactions were building up, and there's a transaction issue. Well, having empty blocks ends up where we have a scenario where there's in just 1 month in that chart, 320,000 transactions were failed to be accounted for. That they were just pushed off to the next month. That's kind of a big deal.
Yes.
Well, that's from empty blocks. You said it's not an issue, but I mean, transactions were getting jammed up just from those empty blocks.
Well, I think transactions getting stuck is an issue, but the issue has its roots in the fact that the blocks are full.
No, it wasn't from full blocks. It was from empty blocks. It was from blocks that just had 0 transactions in them, or very few transactions.
What are you talking about? Like last month or what?
I think the point that he's trying to make is that there's enough empty blocks to get mined that if those were full, that a lot of the backlogs we've had would have been non-existent.
Yeah, but my point is that if we didn't have full blocks, the empty blocks wouldn't be an issue to begin with.
You know what, Olivier, you're right. I think that your point is salient. You get it. And And I don't think that anyone should have any objection to your latest proposal, because it is an opportunity for the community to make a choice, and not one that is kind of like a Solomon's Justice type choice where,
Listen, I'm behind it.
I can't help but
I think this is maybe a very interesting, unique opportunity. I mean, I think that the community has the right to, people have the right to fork away. If they can do so in a way, I think the idea of trying to merge mine a separate fork is a very interesting idea. People will likely end up with more, right? I mean, everybody's going to end up with two different tokens that have different characteristics. There'll be presumably replay protection, things like that, and people will use the one they feel is more useful for them. And who knows? They may diverge. They may continue on, both of them, but I suspect that the sum total of the value there will be greater than the value today.
I agree that merge mining is a novel idea I came up with for what I wrote in the article over the weekend, because it hasn't really been discussed yet. So
no, it hasn't. It's a great idea.
It offers some possibilities, but the biggest issue we're going to have is the miners, because they all want one Bitcoin, right? So I don't think they're going to be too open to having competition there.
Yeah. Maybe not. I haven't really had enough time to think about the merge mining part of this, but Olivier, I think that if there's a commitment to replay protection, then, I mean, as we've already made our commitment to you, like we'll list this thing for sure. I mean, that's just the biggest issue.
That's cool.
The biggest issue for us is can we do it safely? Yeah, that's it.
Well, it makes a fuck ton more sense than Bitcoin Unlimited, pardon my French.
Well, I think the other thing too is that Bitcoin Unlimited, my problem with Bitcoin Unlimited isn't the concept. It's just we're just trying to bite off more than we can chew right now. I think that I'm in favor of bigger blocks. I think a lot of people are. It's a question of how do we get there? What's the order of operations? And I think that people disagree on how to get there. However, emerging consensus, this concept it's a big potential change. I don't think it's been studied closely enough. I don't think it's well tested enough, et cetera, et cetera. I think that going back to some of the other approaches where we minimize the change, where the code is the changes to the code are minimized.
I agree, bit minimal.
Yeah, go back to the classic concept. I mean, classic is so much more palatable to people because it's you're just changing.
Well, the problem is
things.
We should have done classic, and I think not classic, but just a 2 megabyte hard fork increase, because we would have avoided all this bullshit, right?
I know, but Olivier, hindsight is 2020. I don't think it's helpful to kind of try to.
For me, it wasn't hindsight. It's just extremely predictable.
Olivier, but hold on, Olivier. It's not no one listen. It's that you can't convince 30,000 nodes to just hard fork to whatever you want. Like, you have to convince the users to do that. You need to convince. You're hard forking. It's not just the miners. It's the entire network has to go along with it. With the soft fork, I understand. You could get miner consensus and then push that out, and then if the community agrees to it, they agree to it. If not, everything's okay. It's backwards compatible. But with the hard fork, there is no backwards compatibility. Everyone has to agree to that upgrade. That's why there hasn't been a hard fork for an upgrade. If you even consider any, like, I know you're going to say we had a hard fork in the past, and that's true, fine. If you think we had a hard fork in the past, that's fine. But it was for a security issue. Of course you're going to get consensus for that. You're like, to get everyone agreed for an arbitrary upgrade.
We can hard fork perfectly safe as long as it's predicted upfront for a couple of months. And I agree we should.
I think it's possible, but I think we haven't done it yet. I think that people are afraid, and
we should get over it. It's over.
But you know what, Olivier, I don't think it's helpful to denigrate people who are afraid of hard forks, because we are talking about a $20 billion network. We're talking about it's a big deal. It's a big deal, and I think that people
are also a big deal.
Well, they are at least backward compatible, and
that's a big at least.
It's a big at least, right?
That's
so look.
Yeah.
Look, Olivier, we've known each other a long time. We disagree on this issue, but I think one thing that we do agree on is we want Bitcoin to be everything that it can be, and I want bigger blocks. I just believe that we should do all the optimizations that we can do through soft forks should be done first, and then consider the hard fork scenario.
But I think we've lost a year and a lot of markets first mover advantage.
But here we are with SegWit.
I'll let you talk afterwards. Okay. I think we lost a lot of first mover advantage over the last year by saying hard forks are dangerous, and now we have to do SegWit in a much more complicated way. I think a lot of that stuff could have been done a lot easier with a hard fork, and I think we should just get over that and accept that we need to take the risk of a hard fork, and in essence, SegWit is almost equally dangerous than doing a hard fork with similar features.
Maybe, but I disagree with that assessment. You're free to have that opinion naturally, but I disagree with that assessment. I mean, I don't think that SegWit is anywhere near as dangerous as a hard fork.
You think SegWit is less dangerous than a 2 megabyte?
No, but listen, even if it was very dangerous, you could always go back to
like one set.
But you could always go back. But you could always go back if something happens. It's backwards compatible.
You can go back after SegWit.
Yes,
that's not true.
How do you feel
you can. What are you going to do with a new SegWit system?
You know what? SegWit has been really super thoroughly tested by a ton of engineers. It is the most tested release of Bitcoin Core ever done. To date.
Well, I understand that you have that opinion, but when you tell me that
that's
you
not
think
an opinion. That is about tabulating. That's tabulating the man hours spent by engineers who working on Core have spent testing and retesting and basically battle testing SegWit. I mean, I don't think that I think that being afraid of SegWit because it's complicated.
I'm not afraid.
Is fair.
I'm just saying that if you like SegWit is safer than changing one setting to increase the block size. I don't agree with that.
I mean, one is compatible and one's a hard fork, right? One is a situation where people may get left behind, and that people may try to take advantage of that. In fact, I am almost certain that if we had a hard fork situation, there will be ne'er-do-wells out there that will try to take advantage of this with people that are not upgrading in a timely fashion. And by the way, look at the nodes out there. There are people running some really old versions. Okay,
a lot of them,
right? So let's just understand here that it's not. I think that to be afraid of a hard fork is a reasonable position. Olivia, I think reasonable people could disagree on that. And
you think it's reasonable to be afraid of SegWit?
I think that people can have their objections. I don't think that the objections are founded. I personally do not think that it is a dangerous thing to do.
I feel the same way about being afraid of a 2 megabyte hard fork block size increase. I think it's nothing to be afraid of.
Olivia, the problem with this debate, in general, not between you and I, but the problem with the debate is that it's become almost like a Christianity versus Islam kind of thing. People have come to this debate with a certain set of a priori assumptions that are unmovable.
So maybe we should focus on switching to finding some common platform.
Well, right. So I think that's the to finish my point is that when people have different a priori assumptions about how the world works, you're not going to change their minds about it. And I think that what's happened here for the last few years is that we've had a situation where people have tried to talk, tried to negotiate, tried to find common ground, and unfortunately, we keep coming back to these sort of a priori assumptions that are incompatible.
The conclusion is going to be that either the big blockers fork or you're going to fork yourself, right? And I think that's a valid option in both situations, and I think you guys are pretty convinced, at least. I think the majority would be that if you guys fork, you will have the money and the developers and the user following you, and we have the same opinion, right?
Well,
I don't even want to necessarily put myself on either side of this. I mean, I think that it is. I think that what's clear is that there are significant numbers of people that are influential in this process that are on both sides of this. It doesn't matter what I think. You know, what matters is that there's no consensus around a solution. And and then when miners talk about trying to bully consensus, you know, through hash rate and 51% attacks and a lot of this stuff, I think that scares a lot of people.
I think the other thing to remember, sorry guys, is that SegWit is ready to go now. If we activate SegWit,
right.
it's good to go, right? And if we hardfork to BU, people are going to get replay attacked. The code is obviously not ready based on a few bugs that I've seen. Nodes drop out of the sky like knives. It's not ready. There's nothing ready. SegWit is ready to go now.
But what I was going to say about what Phil said was,
and I agree that SegWit, even if we activate SegWit, it will take time for that block size. For the block optimizations to take effect. I mean,
right off the bat, we get 1.7 megabytes.
We know, not right off the bat. Okay, I look, I'm a big SegWit fan, but let's not fool ourselves about how long it's going to take for the utility of that to kick
4
in.
Megabytes. Yes,
just the block size. We get transaction
no.
malleability will be fixed straight away, and there's a few other things that might benefit.
Not quite.
No, TX malleability is not fixed until it's official.
It's only fixed for SegWit outputs.
Yeah, not for the old.
Yeah, it's not fixed for the old, right? But okay. I think the idea is that there are a number of providers, you know, that do control large amounts of Bitcoin through their wallet and services that have committed to this, that are ready to do the upgrade, and will, with their users, will basically move the UTXO set to SegWit. But I think that will not happen overnight. It will take some time. But I do think we'll see some benefit. I mean, maybe even a 25 or 30% benefit pretty quickly, because just by virtue of companies like BitGo and a couple others being ready to go day one,
that will going to be another SegWit discussion.
Look,
I don't think we should.
All I'm saying is that, like, I think that there will be some benefit, but I'm with the critics on this idea that it's not going to be, it's no panacea. We're not getting a 2x block size increase overnight if we activate SegWit.
Yeah, but I mean, right now there's 146 transactions stuck in my mempool, so we don't need that crazy increase if we're not getting spammed.
Well, the thing that I'm concerned about, and I wish that this kind of was, I wish these conversations could be had in a more, I don't know what the forum is, but in my estimation, it seemed clear to me today, and I may be wrong about this, but miners don't want SegWit because they think it's going to take fees away from them, and that's a troubling.
No, I don't buy that. I don't buy that either. Do you know why I don't buy that?
They actually wrote something about it. I don't know who it was, but there was definitely a point that they made that.
Okay, that's fine.
They're okay.
Is that, Olivier? Do you think that statement's true or not? I don't know the answer, because
that miners are afraid to lose fees. I would also be afraid.
That's fine. I would agree with that, but the reason I would have to disagree with that for two reasons. One, if they're really worried about fees, Vive, BTC, and Antpool will be mining full blocks. Two, they can't stop second layer. I mean, if they wanted to stop Lightning, they had to have blocked 0, 1, 2. They let that go through. We're gonna get Lightning regardless.
I mean, second layer happens every day. I can't tell you. We do a gajillion second layer transactions on Bitfinex, for example.
Yeah, it's gonna go to second layers regardless. So that's not something that they could stop. This is a grab for power. This is all this is about. Is a grab for power.
How do you define second layer transaction?
I don't think it's helpful to be that cynical, Hodl. I don't.
I don't think there's a grab for power. The real reason that I think Roger and other people are concerned is that, and you're gonna say yes, but we can switch to SegWit today and it will solve it. The biggest issue is that the transactions have been stuck for over
I'm
a year.
not talking about you or
right?
Roger. This isn't about you or Roger. I think, honestly, at the end of the day, I think Roger's getting played as well. I think this is Jahan. I think this is Bitmain. I think this is it's about them having power, not about Roger. Roger, I actually think wants what's good for Bitcoin.
They denied the power of the miners. Remember, end of December 2015, that the miners literally said, well, we'll leave it in the hands of the developers. We will just follow whatever you do. I remember that.
Yeah, because at that time there was no developing team to compete with them. There was no classic really.
No, the miners didn't want to have. They don't want to make decisions. They would just want to have like an easy system that makes them money. They don't want. They want to risk decisions.
Well,
it's annoying for them.
In this decisions, what they're trying to do is they're trying to basically have unlimited amounts of power. When you do a merge consensus where Jahan has to place a phone call to all the miners,
it's not.
That's
it's not.
Look, theory.
It's not. Yeah, I'm
with
Olivier on that.
I'm ready. I'm all ears.
I think that I think that merging consensus gives more power to miners, but I don't think it gives all the power to miners. It's just.
It doesn't change anything. They can change the block size today if they want.
No, they all have to agree on that.
But I think that is, it's a complicated mechanism to be introducing at this stage in the game. For a reference implementation that has so few developers behind it, to take on something that is complex as what they're trying to do, just seems like putting the cart before the horse. I mean, this is why I think that bringing up the idea of Bitcoin Classic seems like a very reasonable and rational approach to this. If you're really interested in scaling and trying to find a best fit for the community, I think you have to abandon this emerging consensus concept and back up to something that's a lot simpler.
Yes, I'm
and
totally
supportable.
willing to talk about that.
Supportable.
Yeah, I think we can start with 8 megabyte or whatever size you think is acceptable, right?
Listen, as long as it's a fork.
I'm just happy that we're talking about it in a context where we're not worried about about code quality and all kinds of other problems that comes with. I mean, there's so much new code in BU. I mean, it's that is dangerous.
But this is not really a limited discussion about BU. I'm not.
That's right. That's what I'm saying. I'm happy to hear.
Talking about solutions.
Yes. I'm happy to hear that people are willing to say, okay, there are other solutions besides BU, and there may be simpler solutions here. And frankly, politically, I think that Olivier, you're going to have a much better chance getting people behind this type of solution in the long run. So anyway, I applaud your efforts and your bravery on this. But upon that note, I actually have to dash away here in a minute or two.
So the question of intentions in Jihan's camp, I mean, what do you think is the likelihood that Jihan actually supports your classic proposal?
Well, first of all, it's not a classic proposal, right? It's just my idea of a possible classic proposal, which I don't have the sole authority to defend.
No, but he could merge mine it if it ends up happening.
You should, Olivier, before you go talk to Roger and that whole team, you should just go straight to Jahan with this idea. If you have a good idea, go straight to him and then see if he likes that idea. And if
I'd like to lay out the possibilities here today, and I would also like you to understand what I think is the viewpoint from the miners. So yeah, there are several options towards the future. The first one is that we have a huge fight, right? And one of the parties is gonna hard fork, you're gonna user activate a soft fork away or whatever is gonna happen. I don't know. There's many disastrous
hard fork's no good. Contagious hard fork's no good.
The result will be that the Bitcoin price will crash, and there's gonna be a lot of damage to Bitcoin as we sort of continue this fight. The second option is that we could, for example, do the proposal I made today, and we have two competing coins with the same hash power thanks to merge mining. People who don't do anything, the holders will just get coins on both sides. So I think it's a win-win for everyone. The only discussion would be about the Chinese supporting 2 Bitcoins or the people supporting 2 Bitcoins. I think they don't like that idea. They've always been opposed to it.
But it's diluting the trend. Yeah, I think the market's terrified.
Well, please let me finish. The problem there is that we need the Chinese on board, and I don't think they're going to want 2 coins. But I might be wrong, right? So the only thing we can do is find out. And I don't represent Classic. I don't represent Bitcoin Unlimited. I just brought forward a possible solution. The third option is that we stay together and we find a common solution and we both make compromises.
Number 3 is done.
We both agree on, for example,
the reason number 3 is done.
Megabyte we both think is acceptable, and I'm talking about both groups. We sit together in a room with the miners, have an open discussion, and we decide that this and this and this together is acceptable. These are the 3 possible solutions that I think of.
The third solution is a hard fork. There's a hard fork. That's the core of this whole thing. Is the hard fork. It's not what block size we should have. The problem is the hard fork itself.
But did you just hear what I said?
Yeah, number 3 is out. Number 2, I like. I mean, number 2, if you could convince them to merge mind.
Why is number 3 out? There's like sitting together and having discussion is never out. It's always an option.
Hard forking, there's always going to be a contentious on an arbitrary upgrade. You're not going to get the contentious hard fork. It's just not going to happen.
So you're basically saying no matter the dialogue, no matter everyone agreeing, like you cannot hard fork?
You're not going to get everybody agree.
Not everyone will agree.
You're not going to get everybody to agree on anything.
Well,
it's not going to happen.
You can never get 99% of the people agreeing, right? Never.
Okay, so hold on.
What you want. You want to have general consensus where most of the people are okay with the idea. You can never have 100% consensus. It doesn't exist.
Olivier, but say this. I know a few people that run their nodes over Tor.
It would be good to have like people taking turns and asking questions or opening discussion, because otherwise it's going to be a...
No, Olivier, but this is about a permissionless network. This is about a permissionless network, and the reason we don't want to raise the block sizes is because I want to make sure that those nodes are able to run over Tor. That's the issue here. That's a huge issue.
Okay, but that's related to the 3 options I just pointed out. Now you want to discuss about should everyone be able to run a full node or not? That's another discussion, okay?
No. Well, the discussion is about a hard fork. It always keeps going down to a hard fork. You think a hard fork is this normal thing. I think that it's not.
Yeah, but it's not about the actual hard fork
normal.
itself. It's about what you hard fork to, right? You have the issue with the actual
arbitrary
hard fork happening.
Upgrades are going to be contentious. If there's security here, you want to hear a non-contentious hard fork? SHA-256 is broken. SHA-256 is broken. And now we have the hard fork to another algorithm. Go ahead. Ask the question. Who has questions for Olivier?
I have a question. So if you're gonna just use a new chain, and why just not pick a type of coin with better features like Litecoin? I mean, and merge mine a coin with better features. Because the whole point of Bitcoin, the way I see it, is that you are stuck with this set of features because you're committed to Bitcoin. But why use Bitcoin Classic?
What do you think are better features?
Litecoin, for example.
Yeah, but Litecoin isn't a feature, it's a coin. Like, which features in Litecoin?
Faster transaction times because the block time is smaller.
I think Bitcoin can handle that fine, and zero confirmations work, so I don't think it's necessary.
Zero confirmations work in what way?
Zero confirmations have worked for fucking years.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless but they were never safe.
I've paid stuff on Bitcoin with BitPay and gets accepted, zero confirms for fucking years and years and years. Now, when I paid for something with Coinbase the other day, the timer was for 15 minutes. I paid premium fee, 200 satoshis per byte. It didn't even make it into a block for 4 hours.
I know, we need
then
SegWit.
I had to email the fucking company, all the fucking ID and everything. It's a fucking nightmare.
Yeah, SegWit has to happen as soon as possible. It's starting to get ridiculous. But you're right. Back in the day, not many people were trying to double spend, and now you have plenty of tools out there that make you very easy to double spend. So of course you're going to get double spending problems. Satoshi said it himself. Zero confirmation.
I don't want to be annoying, but is it possible to have some other people in the discussion to have some variation in this debate, or?
I think everyone here is against hard fork. That's the problem, except for Flipper. Flipper is ready to go.
I'm against the contention, brand dilution and like the effect of having 2 coins. I don't think the sum of 2 coins will equal the value of one, and the strength of having a congruence of message with all in the same all aligned. I think this could damage the brand.
Sorry, I didn't get you. You prefer to have just one coin, right?
Yeah, well, I just think the more the Bitcoin name is spread around amongst various alternatives, the more confusing it gets for the general population. And
I agree. It's definitely an ideal outcome to have just one Bitcoin name, but then we have to be able to come to consensus. And at the moment, it's very difficult. But I'm not saying it's impossible. I think we should still attempt, to sit in a room again 10 times if necessary to come to some conclusion.
But that's not how it works.
It's always going to be better
money.
than splitting off, in my opinion. So this is just like a sort of.
But you can't invite 30,000 people to a room to discuss something.
It's a better solution than keeping fighting and going to real war. I think it's better to, because that's going to be even more disastrous for Bitcoin.
That's fair. You invite the miners and because they're the only people, the mining pool operators are the only ones that really need to make decisions on where they push their power. Then the users who actually mine for that pool can decide which one they go to based on their decisions.
Which is happening right now. The problem is that Jahan he manufactures about 70 to 75% of the chips.
Yeah.
Dude, that's my problem, is the ASIC centralization in China. These guys are playing politics, they're playing both sides, they're playing all the angles.
Yeah,
it's insane. It's
a
terrible.
problem that we have just one, a very limited amount of chip producers, and I was always hoping that we would have a situation where those chips become very cheap and very accessible to the public, but so far it hasn't happened, and I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon now.
I came from a manufacturing side of the mining stuff in the beginning, and the issue is a lot of serving a lot of small customers is not something manufacturers want over the long term, because with returns and with just noisy people who don't completely understand the tech they're getting involved
ideally,
with.
There would be a SHA-256 chip in every mobile phone, so to speak, right? That would always be my dream scenario.
That's never going to happen. That's never ever going to happen. That's ridiculous.
It's not ridiculous, but I also agree that the chances of that happening are very slim at the moment. I think if Bitcoin really catches on and it reaches a price where having a chip like that might actually allow you to pay for your newspaper online or to read articles or something, then people will become interested. But right now, it's sort of a chicken and an egg problem, right?
Yeah, this is something 21 mentioned and Cointerra's Ravi mentioned before. It's whether it's not about mining for profit at that point. It's about manufacturers. The other option was even manufacturers offering reduced product because they can have the pool and have offset the costs to the consumer.
I think at this point we all realize that ASICs are a terrible idea. They haven't been commoditized. They won't be commoditized. And in fact, they're actively being used as a political weapon to damage the ecosystem. ASICs are a net negative for Bitcoin.
I'm against a contentious hard fork, but I believe that in the future, that if we do SegWit and as we reach capacity there, that everyone will come around a Blocksize hard fork and we can get rid of technical debt. I just think it's not time yet. I think in the future we can have a hard fork that we can all get around.
Yeah, the markets we can find some common ground on the hard fork.
Look at the market's recent reaction. It was sitting right near all-time highs, and then this hard fork hype showed up, and you could see the market's reaction to it. I think it's like speaking to it.
You can see it.
That's not a good argument anyway, because if you hard forked in 10 years, the market cap would be higher and be even risky.
But, I mean, for proof of work, you always need a sort of a solution, and in the end, the chances are that's going to end up with ASICs, because that's just how the market works. They're going to try to make it more efficient, to make more money, and no matter what we start with, it's very difficult to prevent that from happening, right?
Well, it's been
the only solution would be where you already have an existing chip that's get implemented in all devices with a completely new algorithm or a current one, and then you'll activate it simultaneously. That would be an option, but
the thing with the ASICs is it has been a land rush. They were so disruptive from the get-go to GPU mining that the access to new tech has meant that one single manufacturer has been able to dominate. as we reach this kind of threshold whereby the next chip is not as dramatically efficient as the last, there should be some dispersal of this power. But I mean, as Bitcoin, and we spoke about this before we came on, but as Bitcoin's price keeps rising, the incentive for a new entrant becomes greater and greater and greater. So I'm hopeful that ASIC manufacture doesn't stay dominant within one party.
I'm also hopeful that this is going to happen. I really hope so, and I think it would be great for consumers to have their own chip.
What do you mean their own chip? You
in like a phone or
a SHA-256 chip?
That's
like
years and years away. Look what happened with 21.
Why would that ever happen? Why would anyone put an extra piece of electronics in a device that has nothing to do with that thing to make it more expensive and heavier and worse in every objective way? Why would you make your product worse for no reason?
He's saying eventually when the chips are so cheap, it's just going to be able to put it in something and make a bunch of... No,
21's business model was to have a chip in every device, and that way people can
make some
micropayments online.
Yeah, but we're not there yet. I mean,
what do you think about Internet of Things, Olivier?
What do I think about it? Like, about what?
Nothing. I don't know.
Just in general about it, or what?
No. I was just wondering if you were going to go off. That was it. That was the only question. You didn't go off, so you passed. That was it.
Go off?
Listen, Olivier, my concern right now, like since mining or chip manufacturing is pretty centralized, making sure nodes stay decentralized is something that I'm gung-ho about. So when someone's threatening to raise the block size, so it's going to be even harder to run a node, red flags get pointed. I mean, I just can't get behind that. So I'm all for you splitting off the network. I'm all for that. Have a clean split. You know, you compete against Bitcoin. If the market thinks that that's the way to go, I'm all for it. But you know, it's got to be a clean split. So I mean, if you could convince the miners to go ahead, and I also don't agree with you about the whole Chinese don't wanting 2 Bitcoins. I could understand if they had to pick a chain to mine, but if it's being merge mined, I don't see why they would be against that.
I don't think they would be against merge mining because they would make double the money, and not double the money, but at least they would profit from both ends. I think
if one
they
dies,
are against having 2 coins, right? It's not about the mining of those coins. It's just about having 2 Bitcoins. That's what they're afraid of.
But there's other SHA-256 coins. I mean, Maza coin is a SHA-256 coin that those ASICs combine.
Yeah, but it's about having 2 Bitcoins.
It's about the brand. It's about the brand dilution.
Yeah.
And that's what I can
mining it. Yeah, but it makes no sense.
I'm gonna go. I think it was a nice 1 hour. I can always come back on later.
Okay. Olivier, do you mind if it's obviously it's being recorded by default because it's always being recorded, but do you object to putting this conversation up?
No, you can put it online. I already expected that, so...
Okay, thank you.
I can't just have
a quick point about proof of work. The mining ASIC isn't actually the problem. It's the decentralized cost of power that is cheap in some places and expensive everywhere else.
That's not true because it's pretty much America's just on par with China. We have dams here for 2-3 cents a kilowatt. The fact of the matter is that
most Americans cannot mine cheaply. There's only one state and a couple of villages in that state where they can buy cheap electricity.
No, but on average...
Okay, before we I just want to say thanks to Olivier for coming online.
Olivier, thanks.
Yes,
Thank you. Yeah, no
appreciate it.
Nice to be here.
Olivier, please work it.
See you guys.